Hey guys, it's Holly and welcome back to H&R Fam. For today's video, it is going to be my labor and delivery story. So if you guys aren't familiar, I just recently had a baby and my last video I'm pretty sure was what was in my hospital bag. And today I'm finally filming what my labor and delivery story is. So my story starts on February 14th, Valentine's Day of 2019. And at this point, I was 41 weeks and I reached my induction date. So my doctor was not allowing me to go past 41 weeks. That was the cutoff, and that was the day that I was supposed to be having my little baby girl. So to begin off the day, between 6 and 10 a.m. is when the hospital was supposed to contact me to tell me the time to be at the hospital. So this could be, they could tell me to be there at nighttime, they could tell me to be there right away, they could tell me to be there basically at any time during the day of the 14th. So they contacted me early the morning of the 14th, and they told me that they'd be contacting me again later on in the afternoon when they had an availability to tell me more closer to the time that I was supposed to be there. So come around to about 2-3 p.m. in the afternoon, I got the phone call saying to be there whenever I could get there, and so we packed up our bags, we got in the vehicle, and we drove to the hospital. So we get to the hospital and things basically started right as soon as we got there. They gave us a little bit of tour of the labor and delivery unit and everything like that. They showed us around and we got to meet the nurses that would be with us throughout the whole entire process, and our doctor came in and met with us because unfortunately my doctor wasn't able to deliver our baby, but that comes into play. Thankfully, it was another doctor right from the same office that I had previously met, so I was really comfortable and totally fine with the fact that she was delivering our baby girl. So as soon as we get to the hospital, we get taken into our room, we fill out all the necessary papers that you have to fill out when you go to have a baby, unfortunately, that comes with the process. And we go and we get into the room, and I was tested strep B positive, or GBS, whatever you want to call it, group B, whatever, strep B. I was positive for that. So if you guys don't know, you have to be started on antibiotics before you deliver the baby. And unfortunately, I am allergic to penicillin, which is the main antibiotic that they treat that with. So I had to get an alternative. I don't remember the name of it. At this point, I honestly don't even really care. That had to be run through my system for 4 hours before they would start the induction process. So initially starting all of the medication to get the contractions and my body going. So they started me right away on that. The doctor came in. She instantly checked to see how dilated I was because the week prior at my last OB appointment, I was already dilated to a 3, in between 3 and a 4. So she definitely wanted to check to see exactly if I had progressed any, and sure enough, I was definitely at that full 4 mark, and my cervix was starting to efface. So I had a very viable cervix according to the doctor. Moving on, so this was finally at 8 o'clock at night. I want to say that is when they started the medication and everything. By the time they got everything in order, all the paperwork done and everything like that. So come 8 o'clock is when they started the thing. So go 4 hours later all the way to midnight is when my first set of antibiotics had already gone through my system. So 12 o'clock came and my doctor came in and issued, I do not remember the name of it, an induction thing that goes through IV. That's all I'm going to say. I don't remember the name of it. An induction thing that goes through IV. That's all I'm going to say. I don't remember the name of it. I did not have to get Cervidil. I did not have to do any of that because I was already dilated so far, and I already had a viable cervix, so they didn't really have to do anything with that. They didn't have to soften my cervix. They didn't have to do anything like that, thankfully. So I was just put on a medication to get contractions going, because I was having contractions, but they were just tightening. They weren't painful. They were just basically Braxton Hicks. So they're monitoring baby's heartbeat and everything like that, which is so nice. I think that was the most therapeutic thing, and that helped me get through most of my labor, was just being able to lay there and listen to our baby girl's heartbeat, and I think, you know, that's really helpful. I didn't have a birth plan. I was just kind of going with the flow. Whatever happened, happened, as long as she came out healthy and totally fine, and I was fine. That's all that mattered to me. So 12 o'clock hits and we start the whole process of beginning contractions, and I think it was every half hour to an hour they were coming and just inching the dosage up to get the contractions really kick-started. Moving on to, I don't remember exactly the times after that. I know I started contracting and relatively fast, and unfortunately, one of the side effects from the induction medication is hypercontractions. Now, if you don't know what that is, basically you have a contraction, it lasts that 60 seconds, 30 seconds type of thing, and they're more than consistent. They're back to back, like there's no break. You breathe through one, you just take one breath, and you're getting another one, and unfortunately that can cause issues with baby's heart rate and things like that. And of course, I ended up having that reaction to that medication, and let me tell you, I do not want to go through that again. I was breathing through the contractions just fine before they got to the hypercontractions, and at that point, I was totally done. So they came in, they checked me again to see how far I was. At this point, I was 7 centimeters dilated already, and I'm pretty sure this was maybe 3 hours after midnight, so it didn't take long at all for the contractions to start. So basically then I was in so much pain because I wasn't having a break. I wasn't able to breathe, to get a breath in between them. I was just a constant contraction mess lady. So basically what happened then is I opted to get the epidural. I was doing just fine. I was thinking, yes, I'm going to be able to go through this labor naturally, but unfortunately once those hypercontractions kicked in, it was impossible. My body wasn't getting a break. I was getting tired and more and more, exhausted as the contractions just kept hitting me. So at this point I opted for an epidural, and then I hear the news, sorry, but the anesthesiologist isn't going to be able to come for another 3 hours. At this point, I'm 7 centimeters dilated, and I'm like, what? 3 hours? Well, I'm basically going to have to deal with this till the end with these hypercontractions. So as soon as I started the hypercontractions and they got bad enough, unfortunately, our baby's heartbeat did drop, and they started taking my blood and everything to prep me for emergency C-section, in case when they stopped the medication, baby's heartbeat didn't rise and go back to normal. So they started that process. At the same time, they shut off the medication and were hoping that baby's heartbeat would level out. They got me to switch positions, trying to get baby to, of course, level out her heart rate. Doing this along the way, within, I think it was like 20 minutes, maybe half hour, I must have been have super luck that day, because the anesthesiologist came in right away and he's like, yeah, I knew I was going to be 3 hours, but I instantly came in once I heard your situation, and I got the epidural. Come to the epidural. Mind you, my boyfriend, the baby's dad, was in the delivery room the whole entire time. He didn't leave, and at this point, getting the epidural was really difficult. If you guys haven't gotten an epidural before, you sit kind of hunched over. You gotta push the bottom of your back out so they can get the epidural in properly. At the time, I was still having these hypercontractions and trying to get everything to slow down, and they're still trying to monitor baby's heart rate as well. So baby's heartbeat was starting to level out after the medication had gone away, but I was still having the hypercontractions because it would take a little bit for it to slow down itself. So getting the epidural, I was hunched over, and because I was having hypercontractions, every time he would go to put the needle in, I would contract, and if you guys have been through this, you know you can't stay, when you're contracting, you can't stay relaxed with your back bent. That's why they try to do it in between contractions when they do the epidural. So they actually ended up poking me 6 times trying to get the epidural in properly. Thankfully, the 6th try got it in absolutely wonderful, and it worked immediately. During this process, though, my boyfriend, who can watch blood and guts and gore and that stuff doesn't bother him, unfortunately needles do, and at that point, watching the epidural, why he would sit there and watch it, he started to get lightheaded, and he had to sit down, and the nurse had to hold my hand for the rest of the process. So after that, then they inserted the catheter, and he watched that happen, which I give him props, because all of my other family members that have gone through labor with their wives or their girlfriends, either choose not to be in the room or they just can't stand to watch. And I'm glad I had that major support from him throughout the whole process. So they get the catheter going, and then it was maybe at this point 5 in the morning, and it was getting to be quarter after, just about 5:30 area, and I said to them, this was maybe 25 minutes after the epidural had gone in, and I was having that relief, and I told the nurses, I feel like I have to push. And they kept saying to me, no, it's okay, it's your first, it doesn't happen that fast. Mind you, I was just at 7 centimeters dilated, a half an hour, 40 minutes before this. I said, no, I really feel like I have to push. I could feel her coming down. TMI, I could feel her coming down. I could feel her moving down, coming out. Like, I could feel it. And I kept saying to them, no, I feel like I have to push. Like, I can feel her coming down. They're like, no, it's just the contractions. It's okay. It's normal. You're not just going to pop out a baby. It's fine. I'm like, no. I kept arguing with him. No, I feel like I have to push. I feel like she is coming. Like, now. I feel like I can feel her moving down. Like, I know she's coming. And they're like, no. So after arguing with him for maybe another 10 minutes, they finally checked me and they're like, oh my gosh, yes, you're 10 centimeters, she's right there, your cervix is totally gone, it's time to push. So, come to time to push, I started pushing, and I pushed with the nurses for 40 minutes, and by the time the doctor came in, I pushed for another 5 minutes, and she was born, and I couldn't be happier. Gonna get emotional. My boyfriend watched the whole thing. They brought her out, put her on my chest, and it was the biggest relief ever because, if you guys don't know, I experienced a miscarriage prior to this. So, seeing that, feeling her on my chest, knowing that it was real, that she was healthy and okay, was beyond the best feeling in the world. And to see my boyfriend happy and even have a little tears in his eyes was one of the best moments of my life. And I would never take that back, ever. So, at 6:13 a.m. on February 15th, 2019, we gave birth to our little baby girl, Aria Margaret Irene, and I'm just leaving the last name blank, because that's private. She took my boyfriend's last name, not mine, hyphenated or anything like that, but that is something that just doesn't need to be opted. She weighed 8 pounds, 3 ounces, and she was 19¼ inches long, and absolutely perfect. Today, when I'm filming this, she is exactly 2 weeks old, and I will go get her in just a second. She is sleeping, so I can show you guys her. And, life is absolutely perfect, and I couldn't ask for anything better than what I have in my life right now. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will insert the clips of her here at the end as soon as I say goodbye. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time in our next video. Bye!